So I wanted to weigh in on the recent Alex Jones-Ben Shapiro dispute. Um, Let me give a little background before I give my opinion. Basically, this all started out with, surprisingly enough, the Kanye West tweet storm that occurred about a week prior. For those of you who don't remember, Kanye West said some positive things about President Trump. He said he also liked the way Candace Owens thinks. Candace Owens is a black female conservative who encourages black people to not see themselves as victims or oppressed. And it kind of makes sense that all of this took place over a cultural issue, because one of the reasons I like Shapiro and Jones, and one of the reasons I think they're so popular and appeal to a younger audience, is they're very in touch with cultural issues like this one. They're both highly aware of that statement about how politics is downstream from culture. So not only is it entertaining and interesting, it is very relevant to the current state of the country and its ongoing cultural wars. So Kanye West makes these tweets about Candace Owens. Candace Owens starts getting a lot of attention, and Alex Jones had previously known about Candace Owens and offered, for her to come on to his show. Now Shapiro saw this on Twitter, and he said, kind of jokingly, "No, no, no, don't." Basically, don't go on Jones's show. The reason he did this is a little complicated, and it was in a half joking manner. Candace Owens says, what's the problem going on a show that has so many viewers? It gets millions of viewers. I don't appreciate being commanded, what to do. Shapiro did respond and say he wasn't commanding her. He was just suggesting, giving some advice here. Don't go on the show. And of course, even really popular shows can be, detrimental to your reputation. So Alex Jones becomes aware of this tweet. I think him and Paul Joseph Watson get into a kind of a little Twitter spat with Ben Shapiro. They point out, "Hey, Shapiro, you go on CNN." I think everyone was really thrilled with that statement. I think Mark Dice made that statement. But it should be pointed out here, as much as I like both of these guys, I'm going to be pretty critical of both of them now, because I think that's just more interesting and true. I disagree with probably 50% of what both of them generally have to say, but I think from Alex Jones you get a good window into the kind of mainstream fringe, if that makes any sense. The whatever the leading conspiracy theories are, especially on the right, you're going to get filtered through Alex Jones, and he's very popular on this side of the right. And from Shapiro, you'll get a more mainstream, conservative, traditional Republican type of perspective. So I find them both useful for that. They give you a window into what's going on in their part of the spectrum. And of course, they're both pretty funny, entertaining guys who are, again, both in touch with these cultural issues, which is where they're clashing here. So to the point about, is it appropriate for Ben Shapiro to be, suggesting what shows conservatives should go on in the first place? So this is a little complex, I think. First of all, it should be pointed out he wasn't commanding anyone, like he said. He was joking a little bit with the no, 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 but he was still semi-serious. You shouldn't go on Jones's show. He doesn't like Jones, mainly because I think Jones has a very, let's just say, loose way with the truth. I don't think Jones is a outright liar in a lot of cases. He just has kind of low standards for the conclusions he's willing to draw from the available evidence. And sometimes this is a good thing, but sometimes it's a pretty bad thing when you just jump to conclusions, especially when you just kind of start connecting dots, really, really randomly, and think you have it all figured out, where the world is much more complex than you're making it out to be. But in another way, it's useful because you're getting perspectives from Jones that you would not normally hear from a mainstream source, like on cable news or New York Times or whatever. So I think Jones does have his uses and his place, but his standards for the truth are a lot lower than a lot of other sources. But Shapiro isn't totally exempt from this. Like some people said, he did go on CNN, and CNN has had, quote-unquote fake news stories. Not in the same way Jones has them, but they definitely do say they're unbiased, but are clearly biased. That's one example, and they've had to make several retractions in the past couple of years, especially regarding Donald Trump. But I think they are in different classes of, truth reliability. But Shapiro is also prone to, having a lower standards for truth in some situations. For example, he's perfectly willing to believe our intelligence agencies and the Israeli intelligence agencies when they say something that completely lines up with his worldview and what he wants to accomplish. For example, he wasn't skeptical in the slightest about Assad gassing his own people or the Iran getting out of the Iran nuclear deal that just happened. He doesn't show any skepticism whatsoever. So to me, that's not in the same class as Jones's low truth standards, but it's a type of low truth standard where he's just willing to go along with stuff because it fits his expectations of how the world is and what he wants out of the world. So it's not like Shapiro is completely this 100% always on board with the being skeptical about truth claims. I think he's better than Jones, though, so let me make that clear. He gets pretty far out there on very flimsy evidence a lot of the times, but I still find him, generally coming from a place of good intent and, a useful way to see different theories about the world that you would not normally get. So I like them both for different reasons, even though I don't agree with either one of them a whole lot on a lot of stuff. But anyways, so back to the point, should Shapiro have said this in the first place? I tend to say no, because obviously he's allowed to say whatever he wants and all that stuff, so that's fine, he can have an opinion, but I think there's a kind of, like Jones said, there's a kind of a just policing thought type of thing going on here. Whether he was just joking or not with the no thing, it did seem a little out of place. Like, so what if she wants to go on a show? Doesn't mean Candace Owens supports everything Jones does. So let people talk. This is a good thing. So I didn't. But Jones's reaction to it was also way over the top. He starts accusing Ben Shapiro and Peterson of being a part of some atheist movement to take over conservatism. He starts going off on these wild things about Glenn Beck and how Shapiro is the new Glenn Beck and he's gonna be a Judas goat and sell out the conservative movement. And he's trying to take over some media industry in Texas, and he just goes off on all these different tangents that are way beyond what's going on with the initial story. So his reaction was way over the top, and so from that perspective, I'm willing to take Shapiro's side and say, even though I didn't 100% agree with what he said about Candace Owens not going on there, Jones's reaction was way overboard. So that's my take on it. I still like both guys. I'm gonna keep listening to both guys to get their unique perspective from their part of the spectrum, and I'm glad things have settled down between the two. And thanks for listening.